It was the kind of machine that made grown men weak in the knees. The kind of car that didn't just turn heads, it snapped necks. The Motion Super Vega wasn't just another muscle car. It was an outlaw, a defiant, fuel-guzzling monster that challenged everything Detroit's finest had to offer. Born in the era of high-horsepower madness, this beast wasn't meant to be subtle. It was built to dominate. It was the David that walked into a pit of Goliaths, Camaro, Mustang, Challenger, and Corvette, and scared them. But before we get to the chaos it caused, let's rewind. How did this street-legal rocket even come to exist? Hit the like button if you love cars as much as we do, and subscribe to join our gearhead community for more thrilling car content. The 1960s and early 70s were America's golden era of speed. It was a time when raw power ruled the roads, and every major automaker wanted a slice of the high-performance pie. Dodge, Chevrolet, Ford, and Pontiac were cranking out some of the most legendary muscle cars of all time. Hemi Cudas, Chevelle SS 454s, Boss 425 Mustangs. These weren't just cars, they were war machines on wheels. Then came 1972. The oil crisis was looming. Insurance rates for high-horsepower cars were skyrocketing, and the government was tightening emissions regulations. The golden era of muscle cars was fading fast. Engines were being neutered, compression ratios were dropping, and performance numbers started to look downright disappointing. It was a slow death, but some people refused to let go. And that's where Baldwin-Motion came in. Joel Rosen wasn't about to let muscle cars go out with a whimper. As the founder of Motion Performance, he was already deep in the business of tuning and modifying high-performance Chevys. His partnership with Baldwin Chevrolet meant that customers could walk into a dealership and drive out in something that would make the factory models look weak. Corvettes, Camaros, and Chevelles got the Baldwin-Motion treatment. Bigger engines, hotter camshafts, and eye-watering horsepower numbers. But Rosen wanted to push further. He wanted to build something that had no business existing. That something was the Motion Super Vega. At first glance, the idea seemed absurd. Take the Chevrolet Vega, a compact economy car, and turn it into a fire-breathing V8-powered street terror. The Vega wasn't built for speed. It was designed to be affordable, fuel-efficient, and sensible, a word that didn't exist in Rosen's vocabulary. But Rosen didn't care. He saw potential. The plan? Rip out the Vega's tiny 4-cylinder engine and replace it with a 454 cubic inch 7.4-liter V8. It was like stuffing a jet engine into a bicycle. But Motion Performance didn't just want power, they wanted dominance. The result? A street-legal dragster that could embarrass a Corvette at a stoplight. The Motion Super Vega wasn't just powerful, it was stupid powerful. This beast of a car was built for speed, torque, and absolute domination on the drag strip. Under its hood sat a monstrous 454 cubic inch Chevrolet Mark IV big block V8. The same powerhouse found in Corvettes and Chevelles, but somehow crammed into the lightweight Vega. Stock, it made 450 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. But with Motion's tuning and an 850 CFM Holley carb, it easily pushed past 500 horsepower. The result? A subcompact car with supercar-level acceleration. This little monster could launch like a rocket, hitting 0 to 60 miles per hour in around 4 seconds, a time that rivaled the best high-performance machines of its era. The real magic, however, was in the quarter mile. The Motion Super Vega could rip through the quarter mile in the mid-10s. Let that sink in. A 10-second street car disguised as a humble Vega. That was quicker than most factory-built muscle cars of the time. Transferring all that power to the pavement was a Borg-Warner Super T10 4-speed manual, though Motion also offered the Turbo 400 automatic for those who preferred sheer brutality over finesse. The 4.56-to-1 rear gears turned every launch into a smoke show, and at the strip, the Super Vega outran stock big block Corvettes, Mustangs, and Mopars, hitting trap speeds of 120 plus miles per hour. And if that wasn't enough, top speed exceeded 140 miles per hour, making it one of the most ridiculous sleeper builds of its time. But there was a problem: weight. The 454 engine was 400 pounds heavier than the factory four-cylinder, shifting the weight balance drastically forward. Motion tried to compensate with Coney adjustable shocks, stiffer front springs, and a tubular transmission mount, but the reality was clear. This was a car built for one thing: straight-line destruction. The N50x15 Goodyears struggled for grip, and anything beyond half throttle sent the tires into a fury of smoke. If you wanted even more insanity, Rosen would throw in a 427 Ci L88 or a 454 LS6, pushing power figures even higher. This was a small car with a big heart and an even bigger engine. But it wasn't just about straight-line speed. The Super Vega was lightweight thanks to the Vega's small frame. With some suspension tweaks and weight distribution adjustments, it handled better than you'd expect from a machine with this much firepower. Suddenly, Detroit had a problem. Their factory muscle cars, crippled by emissions and insurance crackdowns, looked slow in comparison, and that didn't sit well with the higher-ups. The Super Vega didn't just exist on paper. It made a name for itself where it mattered most: on the streets. In the early 70s, illegal drag racing was at its peak. Muscle cars lined up on quiet industrial roads or deserted highways, engines growling in anticipation. And when the flag dropped, it was pure chaos. That's where the Motion Super Vega thrived. Corvette owners, Charger drivers, and even big block Camaro guys had to rethink their confidence when one of these things pulled up next to them. Few expected a Vega to launch like a slingshot, leaving them gasping in the fumes. Word spread fast. This wasn't just some factory-built muscle car. This was a wolf in sheep's clothing. A car that could destroy the biggest names in American performance and look like a regular compact car while doing it. It was the stuff of street racing legends, but it was also too fast, too wild, and it didn't take long for the government to notice. The Motion Super Vega was too uncontrollable, and the government wasn't having it. The Environmental Protection Agency was already watching Baldwin-Motion closely. They knew these guys weren't playing by the new rulebook. The Clean Air Act had been passed, and emissions regulations were tightening. But Rosen didn't want to tone down his creations. Then the hammer dropped. In 1974, the U.S. Department of Justice slapped Baldwin-Motion with a cease and desist order, effectively killing their ability to sell these street-legal monsters. The Motion Super Vega was too extreme for the new world of watered-down performance. Baldwin-Motion could still build race cars, but their golden era of street-legal muscle was over. Just like that, the Motion Super Vega became an outlaw, a ghost, a legend whispered about in the underground racing circles. The Motion Super Vega never received the mainstream recognition of the Hemi Cuda or the Chevelle SS454, and it didn't need to. To those who knew, it was something even rarer, a forbidden machine. A car so freaking fast that it scared the government into action. Today, finding a real Super Vega is nearly impossible. Most were either destroyed, heavily modified, or lost to time. The few that remain are unicorns, machines that represent a time when muscle cars had no limits. But the spirit of the Motion Super Vega never really died. In the 1980s and beyond, the idea of cramming massive V8s into small cars exploded in popularity. The Super Vega was years ahead of its time. It inspired generations of hot rodders to take small, lightweight cars and drop in monstrous engines. And let's not forget, the modern horsepower wars have brought us back full circle. Dodge is churning out 800-plus HP Hellcats. Ford's Mustangs are faster than ever. Chevrolet still keeps the big block dream alive in the Corvette. But the Motion Super Vega, it was the car that did it first. The one that proved the underdog could be the predator. And for that, it will always be legendary. The Motion Super Vega was a rebellion on wheels, a middle finger to regulations, insurance companies, and everything that tried to tame performance. It was dangerous, It was impractical, and it was absolutely glorious. Most cars follow the rules. This one rewrote them.